Chief Fody for that really warm and spot on introduction to the work we're going to do here this evening. My name is Suzanne Sanchez, and I have the pleasure of leading this incredible related services team that supports hundreds of thousands of students across New York City whose individualized education plan recommends one or more related services. I'm excited because we're going to talk tonight about how related services interject and align with the Boldly Reimagining Special Education initiative and excitement across New York City. I'm pleased that presenting tonight will be a cadre of our occupational and physical therapy supervisors who not only do this work every day, they do it well, and they interface with families, I'll say about 6 days a week, because many of them work on Saturday at Seed or Saturday Academy, and they have the opportunity to connect with parents on Saturdays, which I know is very meaningful for this group. So really excited to have Kristen, Cam, Crystal, and Jerry, who are going to be presenting on related services to you all tonight. Thank you, Jerry. As I referenced and mentioned, this is an incredibly exciting time in New York City as we work to boldly reimagine special education and how special education is imparted to students and families across New York City. Just a couple of really interesting points. There are 185,000 students who have IEPs in New York City, and out of those, the majority of students with IEPs receive special education and educational programs in the same schools that they would have attended if they did not have a disability. Conversely to that is District 75, which is a citywide district originally created to serve students who require really the most intensive supports. And at present day, we have about 27,000 students in New York City who have IEPs that are enrolled in District 75 schools. And over 50% of those students currently have a diagnosis of autism. When we're looking to expand our specialized programs to offer students opportunities to be educated alongside their peers, not in separate schools, but in schools within their own communities where they live, where their siblings, cousins, neighbors also go to school. And this is incredibly exciting as we look to expand autism programs across New York City in our 3 inclusive districts. Go ahead, Jerry, and we will share that. In districts 5, 12, and 14, we are leading the way with a 4-year community by the community approach to special education. This fall, New York City Public Schools will be launching 3 fully inclusive districts as families of kindergarten students with autism will be offered seats in one of these high-demand specialized programs specifically to support students with autism close to their homes, connected to their communities, rather than segregated District 75 placements likely outside their home community. NEST, Horizon, and AIMS programs will be open to families of kindergarten students in districts 5, 12, and 14. And if you haven't seen some of the videos or great work on the New York City Public Schools Instagram page, we encourage you to look through those as we gear up to launch 3 inclusive districts in New York City Public Schools next school year. What's really exciting about launching 3 inclusive districts and the overall work of Boldly Reimagining Special Education is how seamlessly the provision of related services fits into that. The fundamental objective, the main point of a related service, is to help each student maximize their ability to achieve their educational goals. Related services should always be delivered in the most inclusive environment and as much as appropriate for individual students, integrated, involved, connected to the student's classroom, learning, curriculum, social, and pre-work, pre-vocational activities. Boldly Reimagining Special Education and inclusive related services really go together seamlessly, and we're excited to talk with you more about that this evening. I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Crystal Ogier.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to talk about the different types of related services that can be recommended and offered to students who have IEPs or IESPs. And you would work with your child's IEP team, CPSC, or CSC to determine which, if any, services are appropriate for your child. This presentation will focus on occupational, physical, speech therapy, as well as counseling and assistive technology. But the different types of related services that can be available are assistive technology services, counseling, hearing education services, occupational therapy, orientation and mobility services, physical therapy, school nurse services, sign language interpreter, speech language therapy, and vision education services. So for school-based related services, what are school-based related services and what is the focus of therapy? It is an ongoing transaction and work between the student, the task, and the environment. And the providers are constantly working to see what activities and what works best between the student, the task, and environment, how we can accommodate and what works best to really make sure that the student's getting the most out of what is being taught in the classroom and what needs to be accommodated or adjusted, and sharing that information with the classroom teachers and with families. So there are benefits of integrated and inclusive services. Students, teachers, and providers all benefit from collaborated services. Providers share their expertise with the classroom teacher. Teachers share resources and expand their learning toolkit. Strategies are implemented to better support their students' needs. Teachers and providers are on the same page regarding instruction and planning, and student skills are generalized into the classroom setting. So when you're working with the team and on IEP development, and we want to facilitate inclusive practices to support all students through strength-based IEP development. The benefit of a student receiving related services in a separate location and individually needs to outweigh the drawback of missing instruction and learning alongside their peers. So you want to consider the frequency, the duration, the service delivery, and the location, whether it be in the general education class, the special education class, or a separate location. Counseling. Counseling helps students develop the social emotional skills for success in school and in the future. Counseling is recommended for students who may benefit from additional support with their social emotional performance. For example, goal-directed behavior, interpersonal relations with peers and or adults, coping skills, school engagement, and a sense of self-efficacy to improve their academic performance. Here we have the website about counseling on our DOE website. I'm going to pass it over now to my colleagues Kristen and Jackie, who's going to go over occupational therapy.
Hi, good evening. Les quiero dar una muy cálida bienvenida en español a los servicios inclusivos relacionados, apoyado para los estudiantes con discapacidad. Ahora, what is occupational therapy? Occupational therapy helps people do whatever they need to do. And in the school system, the primary occupation of your child is that of a student. And the OT supports in school-based occupations such as routines, classrooms, and cafeteria. And it is designed to help a student with a disability maintain, improve, or restore function in all their education related activities. In areas of occupational therapies and that we help address, that the key is that these concerns have to be impacting school performance. In fine motor skills, they are the small, precise movements that we make with our hands and fingers, such as needed for writing, using a fork or a spoon, scissors, buttoning, and zipping. As you can see here on the slide is a picture of a little one buttoning his shirt. Then in eye-hand coordination, that is the ability to do activities that require the simultaneous use of our hands and eyes, such as needed for writing, drawing, typing on a computer, or eating with utensils. In visual motor perceptual skills, these skills involve the brain's ability to interpret and organize visual information received through our eyes. And these skills are essential for everything from navigating our world to reading, writing, and manipulating objects. In activities of daily living, primarily known as ADL, these are the tasks of everyday life, such as using the bathroom, managing hygiene, opening containers, carrying lunch tray, organizing folders, desk, and a book bag. And as you can see here in our pictures, we have a student putting away their folder in a backpack, and then we have two students carrying a lunch tray. In sensory motor skills, that is the ability to integrate sensory information with motor responses, and these skills are needed to grasp and manipulate objects, write and draw, dress and undress, and maintain balance and coordination. With social emotional readiness, this refers to a child's ability to understand and manage their emotions, build relationships, and interact effectively with others in various social situations. And these skills include empathy, self-awareness, self-regulation, cooperation, communication, problem solving. And with pre-vocational, transitional, it's a set of abilities, knowledge, and behaviors that your children acquire to prepare them for future employment or further education. For example, a child submitting their work on time, are they able to work independently, identify or explore realistic post-high school goals, or on them being able to participate or volunteer in work activities. Now, in this slide, we have the pre-referral process in a flow chart. And this process helps us do the detective work. And this is where we ask ourselves the question, where do we start? And the first thing that we do in the identification of the school-based OT concern is that we identify if there is a school-based issues that are within the areas of expertise of OT. We perform an observation in which we gather baseline data related to the identified issues, and we use an OT teacher report that we provide the teacher with, as well as our observational form. Then we prioritize the student's concern and set goals for the intervention. Then we develop strategies. And in this part, when we develop these strategies, we monitor them for 4 to 6 weeks. And at this point, then we pause and we evaluate the results and determine whether the goal has been met. And that's wonderful when that happens, because now we know that the interventions, that strategies are working. And if it is not, we reevaluate and add more time if needed, or develop other strategies. And if those strategies are not working, then at this point, we would refer the student for an OT evaluation. Now, my colleague, Kristen, is going to talk about occupational therapy more further on interventions.
Hi, everyone. So now we're going to, like Jackie mentioned, talk a little more about OT, or occupational therapy, and we're going to look at it through the different grade levels and talk a bit about how OT may be delivered and describe some commonly used school-based interventions and strategies. And many of these can be implemented in the home environment as well. So we're going to start with our youngest learners in early childhood. These are our students in pre-K and kindergarten. And early childhood really provides this awesome opportunity for development and learning, primarily through play and environmental exploration. This is how our brains grow, right? So there's a focus on the development of sensory motor skills, as well as social skills and school readiness skills like pre-writing and pre-reading, and really creating a solid foundation and a positive school experience for future academic success. And for a student with a disability who's receiving OT in early childhood, the focus is oftentimes placed on remediation of the student's skills. So services may be provided more intensely in early childhood, but we would still focus on the most inclusive mandate. It should always be considered. And this would include providing services in groups and in the classroom due to the many benefits of collaborative and integrated services that we spoke about just a little bit earlier. Environmental and task adaptations may be helpful to encourage student participation. And of course, consultation with teachers and families is extremely important to promote carryover of the new skills across the environments. So it's important, especially with our youngest learners, to determine whether or not these difficulties are stemming from limited exposure versus a true disability that requires intense intervention to facilitate that development. For example, a young student may have difficulty cutting with scissors or manipulating fasteners, but this could be due to just an issue of exposure where the child has not had many opportunities to practice these skills prior to being in the classroom, or it could be that it is, the student is having true difficulties that have some underlying concerns that require more practice for mastery. So in the photos on this slide, you'll see some sample interventions used with our youngest learners during our OT sessions. I'm going to describe them starting from left to right. So the first picture is of colorful, short, broken crayons, which can be easier for little hands to hold and place their fingers in a functional grasping pattern. The second picture shows a blue rolled out piece of Play-Doh in the form of a capital and lowercase letter D. This is an example of a multi-sensory activity addressing pre-writing, visual motor, and hand strengthening concerns. Next, we have a picture of a child's hand holding a scissor with the proper thumbs up grasp. And this is facilitated through the use of stickers placed on the thumb and the top of the scissors, which serve as a visual and tactile prompt. And lastly, we have a picture of a young, dark-skinned little girl wearing a yellow t-shirt with her eyes closed, holding her belly. And this is an example of a belly breathing regulation strategy that can help the student to remain calm and or alert. So these are just some examples of different interventions that are oftentimes used with our youngest student population. Next, we have elementary school, and for sure, the academic demands increase, requiring more robust copying, writing, reading, and math skills. The focus is still on the student's independence with an understanding that it is most inclusive and best practice to treat, when possible, within the student's natural learning environment alongside their peers. The focus can continue to be on remediation of the student's skills, especially in these early elementary years. But for the older elementary student, skill attainment may start to slow down, and more emphasis is placed on adapting the environment and the task for greater independence and participation. For example, although fine motor control is still being addressed, maybe during writing, the student may utilize something like adapted highlighted paper and maybe a slant board for proper positioning as strategies to improve performance almost immediately. And of course, consultation with teachers and parents and families continues to be extremely important for carryover of these skills. So we have a few pictures here. Again, left to right, I can describe them. The first one shows an example of that adapted paper I just spoke of, which has highlighted baselines and visual cues to skip lines for improved writing legibility. The second picture shows a dark-skinned boy wearing a blue shirt using a slant board to raise the paper and provide proper positioning of the wrist and the forearm for better pencil control and endurance. And the third and fourth pictures show examples of self-regulation strategies. One using a poster which gives sample emotions. It's an emotional chart which allows for more self-awareness and self-management skills through the teaching of these social emotional learning concepts. And the fourth is a little light-skinned girl with a ponytail performing wall push-ups in a hallway. She's completing these as part of a sensory pathway in an attempt to self-regulate while transitioning between the bathroom and her classroom. So this is an example of the importance of embedding sensory movement activities into everyday school routines. Okay, next we're going to talk about middle school and high school. So in middle school, there's a higher demand placed on academics as the student prepares for that transition to high school. Most inclusive mandates continue to be a top priority, and OT should be provided in groups as much as possible in order to give the student the most opportunities for social interactions. Common intervention areas include the focus on executive functioning, organization, and self-determination skills. And you can see in this picture, there's a light-skinned young man sitting at a desk with a laptop computer using several different organizational strategies, such as highlighting, the use of Post-it flags, and an AT device using a laptop to complete written work instead of handwriting. Finally, the focus of related services in high school should address college and career readiness and life skills to meet their post-secondary goals, which may include things like four-year colleges, could be technical training schools, or pre-vocational and maybe even community programs. So examples of these different interventions could be a focus on travel training, job readiness, skill development, activities of daily living and independence in self-care skills, self-advocacy, community integration, assistive technology for post-high school, and executive functioning. So now I'm going to pass the mic off to my supervisor colleague, Cam, and she's going to speak a little more about school-based physical therapy. Thanks, Cam.
Thank you, Katie. Good evening. It is my pleasure tonight to present to you school-based physical therapy. What is physical therapy? School-based physical therapy is provided for students who need assistance with accessing their educational environment. The focus is on the physical aspect of these settings. This may include addressing mobility limitations, balance, coordination, and strength deficits affecting participation. There's a picture on this slide of a therapist working with a student, helping her to lift one leg up to work on balance. School-based physical therapy may address challenges in the following areas. So we work in the classroom where students are learning, and we look at how they're manipulating materials in the classroom and maneuvering around and within the classroom environment. We have another picture of students in a playground going up and down the slide, where we address gross motor skills related to age-appropriate play with peers. We have another picture of a student coming off a yellow school bus. So we look at transitions, a student's ability to get on and off the bus, to enter and leave the school building. We have another picture looking at school mobility, where students are moving up and down stairs, walking in and out of the school building. And we look at the student's ability to navigate and access all areas of school to participate in educational opportunities alongside their peers. Then we have another picture of mealtime, where students are sitting together and having their lunch. And we look at their ability to participate in mealtime activities alongside their peers. And the last picture is of a student in the bathroom washing his hands. And we look at toileting and self-care, skills related to independently accessing and using the toilet, sink, soap, and paper towels. Like my colleague said earlier, we look at the student's environment, the student, and the task. So we're going to be looking at physical therapy throughout the years from elementary to high school. We have a picture here of students sitting down for circle time with their teacher. And we know that sometimes students have difficulty getting on and off the floor in elementary school. The physical therapist will work with the student on this skill. They may also modify the task and give the student a large ball or a beanbag to sit on, to making it easier for them to get on and off the floor until they can do it independently. They will assess the environment and help make changes to the environment if they need a stable surface to help them get up and down. In middle school, students need to transition between classes and they're expected to be on time. And students may have difficulty keeping pace with their peers, and we will work with the students in improving their pace. The therapist will work on this task and train them. And if they're using a wheelchair or a walker or any type of assistive device to transition, they will help them to move quickly with their device. They may also change the environment by moving furniture, removing obstacles so that the student can move around quicker. In high school, students are moving towards greater independence and exploring post-secondary and vocational opportunities. The PT may work with students on travel training, focusing on safety and awareness of their surroundings, following travel directions, and if a student needs support with accessibility and overall focus on independent and safe navigation of the community, the physical therapist will work with the student. And here we have physical activity suggestions for all kids. And we have a picture of a very cute little girl who's watering plants. So there are many chores that students can participate in at home that help with carryover of skills. They're simple, easy, and many of us would benefit from our children helping with chores around their homes. Keep in mind that these activities are specific for certain children and can be modified and customized according to your child's functional ability and accessibility needs. So things that they can do at home that will be helpful to them: carry groceries or heavy bags, take out the trash. This works on strengthening, helping them to calm down, slow down, picking up their clothes or toys. Besides us not having to tell them to clean their room, they have the ability to lower to the floor, squat and reach, washing dishes, stepping up and down off a stool to reach the sink, working on standing balance and endurance, and while they're using their upper body, helping you wash your car, having them twist and turn and bend and squeeze the sponge and move in all directions and lower to wash the tires, raking the leaves, watering the plants. This is amazing because now they're outside, they're walking on different surfaces. It's just a nice way of them getting a lot of movement and sweeping, vacuuming, and washing the floors, making their bed. These activities focus and promote movement and function, and they motivate them to use their bodies and complete tasks embedded in their daily routine. I will now pass it over to my colleague, Jerry, who will be speaking on speech therapy.
Thank you. Let's talk about speech therapy. And what is speech therapy? So it's speech therapy, we're looking at the development of listening, speaking, and communication skills. We're looking towards, in school-based speech therapy, it's for students that have disabilities and impairments in speech and language development, and to help them build skills needed for educational success. This is a key area. Speech and language therapy may be provided in individual or small group sessions. As this picture shows, we're always looking for the most inclusive and collaborative environment for your children to develop their communication skills. And this shows a speech therapist working with a group of children. Speech teachers work together with the classroom teachers, parents, and other school staff to make sure that the therapeutic work is relevant to what they are learning and can be transferred to other environments. As we take a look at these images here, let's look at each of the components of speech and language therapy. Receptive language, we see here an image of a therapist with a group of children, and it's the understanding of information. Expressive language, we see students responding back towards a teacher and towards each other. We have articulation, which is the ability of producing sounds through words, through sentences. Pragmatics, which is the use of language in social settings. And literacy, which encompasses reading and writing and the ability to communicate through written expression. So let's begin with receptive language, which is our understanding of language. In early childhood, this begins with exploring the environment, following instructions, understanding basic concepts. A key piece here is print recognition as we target literacy and the ability to follow routines. As you go into elementary school, following directions, that becomes more complex. Again, the literacy component is really important here, learning about books and book structure, identifying parts of a story, and understanding different types of text. They can become more complex, can be fiction, nonfiction. This is a key component in the receptive language piece. As we go to middle and high school and the understanding of information, the receptive language part, it's really important for your child to understand nonfiction text, right? And engaging with text to be able to draw knowledge with others in a group environment and to be able to have discussions and communicate around that text. Making those mental connections to previously learned concepts, what you have learned in your other classes and how do you apply it in real life and with other classes that connect along the curriculum. Let's take a look at expressive language, which is the piece that we know as the production or the way we communicate. So in early childhood, we start to see some pieces here where a child may start to use longer sentences, begin to share stories, learn new words, basic concepts. And again, another important literacy piece, learning that letter-sound correspondence. As we go into elementary school, we continue to build upon the understanding of vocabulary. Storytelling is really important. We really want to make sure that your children are able to tell the narratives and speak about their experiences, communicate those experiences. You want to be able to formulate responses to questions and engage in a conversation around those questions, and supporting written expression, which is a key component of literacy with speech and language therapy. As we go through middle and high school, we continue to support the written expression. And as this image shows, this is one of the key areas. It's about your child's ability to take knowledge and to be able to organize it and express that in a written form as well as a verbal form or in a speaking way. This is a key component of the middle and high school, and this involves, as our image shows here, a collaborative approach. Now we'll look at sound development in speech. And this, we're going to look at the differences between sounds, how sounds are made. This happens a lot in the early childhood pieces where we want your child to build awareness of different sounds and how that changes the meaning of words. We introduce different cues for students to be able to correct their sound production, and your child's speech teacher may target speech productions at the same time as addressing other goals. So it is not a goal that is just targeted in isolation or worked on in isolation. We do this in a collaborative fashion around all the other goals on your child's IEP. Social and pragmatic language. We'll look at each piece, and there's an image here for early childhood, and this image shows a group of children dressed in what may be their favorite, what they wish to be when they grow up, or costumes and so forth. And this is a key component here. It's developing those pretend play skills, working with your peers, understanding school routines. This is a really important piece in the early childhood with speech and language, and the social and pragmatic is your ability to socialize. And we want to make sure that we create the most inclusive and collaborative environment so your child can socialize in speech and language therapy. In the elementary school setting, engaging in conversations, maintaining topics of conversation, understanding how to make your needs known, and how to repair communication breakdowns. As we go into middle and high school, again, we have another image of a group of students in a collaborative model, and it's understanding the rules of conversation and how that can shift in different environments, and adjusting language to meet the different needs of listeners, depending on the situation and the context. Looking as families as partners. Families are a key part of a child support group. Active family collaboration is always encouraged and vital to ensure the carryover of all skills across all related services and strategies learned across environment. Get to know your child's related service providers. Ask questions. Therapists can provide strategies based on your child's specific needs and home environment impacting school-based function. And here we have an image that really shows the importance of the relationship between the related service provider, teacher, student, families. It is a partnership that we're all in together. And now we will go on to another piece of communication, assistive technology.
Assistive technology tools help students who cannot otherwise access their curriculum. So when using the supports and instructional technology that's already in place, it's just not enough support for our students with disabilities. So assistive technology helps our students to communicate with their teachers and classmates, complete classwork, homework assignments, and participate in the school programs. It's different from instructional technology, and AT tools are recommended on the students' IEPs. So considerations for assistive technology. With the IDEA, we know that there are considerations for AT that is required for all students with an IEP prior to an IEP meeting. So it's best practice and recommended that school-based IEP teams collaborate to consider whether a student can benefit from AT before the IEP meeting for all students with disabilities. And AT is a consideration that is ongoing. So we're always looking to see if this is the best AT support for the student. If not, the school team will address that. Technology and learning, IT, AT, and UDL. Instructional technology is utilized by all students in the classroom. So as you can see in this picture, there's students that are working on a Chromebook. They might be working on a reading program that everyone in the classroom is using. Whereas assistive technology is very specific for students with disabilities and helps the specific student to access their curriculum. So in this picture, you will see a student in a wheelchair with AT mounted in front of her, so she now can access the same curriculum as her peers. And UDL looks at a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people. So we're talking about IT versus AT versus UDL. And in this picture, the first image shows that it's assumed that everyone can see the game. But as you can tell, there's a box underneath each one of the persons, and the third individual can't see the game because of the barrier in front of them. They're being treated equal. But in the second image, the individual at the end is given a second box. Now the individual can see the game, and they're being treated equitably. But in the third image, which is UDL, you see that the barrier has been taken away. And because the barrier has been removed, now the systematic barrier being removed, now you can see the game. Everyone can see the game. The types of technology that are offered are AAC, which are augmentative and communication devices, with speech generating devices that help students communicate, and then touchscreen tablets like an iPad that would work on writing and offering word prediction, and laptops with annotation software such as speech to text. At the end of our presentation, we have a resource page, and there you will see that there is a link to CAT Central Assistive Technology Team's YouTube videos that you can go and explore and look at the playlist and look for things that are accessible to you that are already built into your phone, your iPad, or your Chromebook, or your computer. This is a great video that we want to share with you. This is about a student's progress from 2019 to 2023. In the first video, this student was using pictures and relied on his speech therapist for prompts. He's in the cafeteria. He's using low tech. He's using a picture board to make his questions. We could play the video. Now we're moving from 2019 to 2020, and here he's independently using a high-tech device to ask peers questions. And then in the third picture, you'll see that he's using spontaneous language, and you'll hear him say, "Ah, no milk." We can play the videos.
Want milk? Yes.
I need to eat every day. Hello, Zion. What cereal do you want? He said cinnamon flakes. Focus. Focus.
Go by
Chris.
And then by March 31st of 2023, guess what? First day of leading a new station, he's verbally communicating with peers, commenting by himself without an assistive technology device, saying, "Hey, give it back," and wait, and asking peers the question, "Do you want milk? Yes or no?" And we're going to play the video. Now we'll pass it to my colleague, Crystal, who will speak on families as partners.
Thank you so much, Cam. So families are our partners, and we want you to get to know your related service providers. Please ask a lot of questions. Some examples are, what have you been working on during sessions? What types of progress have been made towards my child's IEP goals? What strategies can I carry over at home? Is my child being seen in an inclusive setting? Those videos was really such a beautiful example of what inclusive settings brings and what type of goals can be accomplished when children are working in inclusive settings. That child could not have accomplished those types of goals if he was just working in a separate setting alongside a provider all that time. And really beautiful things can happen when children are working alongside their peers and interacting with one another. And family engagement events and parent-teacher conferences really provide an opportunity for active family participation with related service providers and other school staff. So here we have an image that says related service providers and working with the students, and in turn, there's an arrow pointing to the parent and guardian. It's really just to depict an ongoing communication that should always be happening between what's happening between the related service provider and the student. That should be communicated with the parent. And also, if there's things happening at home that parents are working on with their child, that should be communicated with the related service provider. So everyone's really on the same page when they're working with that student. And as you've heard as ongoing kind of theme throughout the presentation, that we keep talking about inclusive practices. And it's really important, not that just children get the services that they need, but where those services are taking place is also very important. So facilitating inclusive practices to support all students through strength-based IEP development. So some benefits of group services are that they get real-time peer-to-peer interactions. They have peer modeling and motivation, opportunities to practice self-advocacy, problem solving, and other social skills, community building and support system, development for students with disabilities. Providers gain insight regarding how students interact with peers and in the presence of distractions, which is really important, something that does not happen when children are one-on-one with the provider in a quiet room. Opportunities for positive social emotional experience. And benefits of classroom-based services include classroom activities are not missed, opportunities for skill practice in the natural environment. It fosters social acceptance, self-esteem, and social skills. Teachers can apply strategies after models by a provider, which increases opportunities for generalizations. And providers are more connected to the curriculum and instruction. It's beneficial to students in a class. So I want to take a moment to talk about our SEED program. SEED stands for Sensory Education, Exploration, and Discovery. It's an innovative initiative providing structured sensory supports paired with the social emotional curriculum. There are currently 79 SEED sites across New York City public schools, with the SEED program operating in every school district. There's a link here where it'll take you to a list of all of our New York City Public School SEED sites. They're operating, including 6 pre-K centers. And so families who have students who display significant sensory needs, and also that student has to have an occupational therapy mandate on their current IEP, may reach out to this email address. It's seedprogramors@schools.nyc.gov for assistance enrolling in the program. We run on cycles. Our third cycle just started this past Saturday on April 6th. And we still have space at some of our sites. So if you think this is a program that might be a good fit for your child, we encourage you to send an email again to this mailbox, seedprogramors@schools.nyc.gov for assistance in enrolling in the program. And more information can also be found on our website listed here. So if you're not aware, you can also review your child's IEP recommendations services in NICSA. So after a parent signs into NICSA, they would select the IEP icon on the dashboard. Right here in the picture, you see it is it's the symbol of the hand that's circled here in orange. And then the student's IEP will display. You scroll down to the recommended special education programs and service section. And the related service section displays the service type, language, frequency, date range, date of first service, date of most recent service, and the provider's name for the most recent service. So if you have not had the opportunity to do that, I encourage you to please log in, and there you can really see all of the related services that your child is recommended for and the providers that are assigned to your child. Here we have a list of resources aligned with the related services that were discussed tonight. So when you have a moment, please explore those resources. And we thank you so much for participating tonight and joining us to talk about these related services. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us at relatedservices@schools.nyc.gov.